You may notice that in your life you keep gravitating towards a certain type of experience of other people. Now, one perspective is people are just like this, I got a bad hand, I'm a bad person, whatever the case is. And that doesn't necessarily heal us, and it actually tends to make us discouraged and fall more into our story, which then becomes more of a reality. One way to start to break those cycles is to start to do work on your inner child. Now, different parts of our consciousness, depending on the situation, can kind of become crystallized inside of our central nervous system. We have lots of parts and lots of experiences from different ages. Now, these experiences do not grow as we grow and develop. So, you might have an experience where maybe when you get into a relationship and you start fighting, it's almost like you regress to a 5 year old and you think, I'm pretty logical. I feel like I'm relatively stable. But when it comes to these specific situations, I actually feel quite young. And that's because that piece of them is being activated and showing up. Now, when it comes to inner child work, the first thing to identify is what is my experience of others? So, for some people, their experience of others is that no one will show up, or I'm only good if I provide or am of service, or maybe that people are overwhelming and I kind of want to avoid them. So, when we look at these patterns, what we then would look at is who from my base social support growing up, quite young, mimicked these tendencies. So maybe you had a parent or a caregiver who was very unavailable. They could have, cooked your food and put a roof over your head, but when it came to your emotional needs, they weren't able to show up. Maybe they even punished you if you had emotional needs and you learned how to suppress those needs. Or possibly you meet someone who, or you keep meeting people who are very overwhelming, violate your boundaries, kind of put you on edge. And often, looking back into childhood, there might have been one or more caregivers who were very controlling, very demanding, telling you who you needed to be. And so, what happens with both of these tendencies is that we keep recreating the dynamics of that relationship with an unconscious or subconscious wish to fix it through having the relationship we wish we had with that caregiver with this person who mimics much of their qualities or tendencies. Now, this doesn't really work because usually what happens is we pick people who are not available. People who are really needy are not available, and people who are really avoidant are not available emotionally. So they can't actually heal that inside of us. We have to heal. And then what we'll notice is that those people who we thought were unavailable or overwhelming, they don't feel as much of that way. Or maybe we start to find totally different people as we work on our inner world. Now, in terms of working on inner child, you want to start to connect with that child inside of you. Oftentimes going through old photos, starting to remember where was I, who was I at that age, starting to reconnect with the things that you aspired for or wanted or were interested in as a child prior to people starting to socialize you into how you were supposed to be. Many people actually never do the things they wanted. They do what they were supposed to do or what society or their family or their friends told them was appropriate or respectful or reasonable or whatever the case is. So starting to become curious to reconnect and start to do the things that you liked as a child. This will help you to start to reconnect and create a better relationship with your inner world. People often don't connect to their inner child. They often critique those aspects. Like, well, I need to get over it. I need to do this. But if that doesn't work, if you keep having those feelings, getting over it will not be enough. You actually have to go in and explore and connect with those needs. Another thing that can be helpful is to just journal from that kid's perspective. Oftentimes, many ideas and concepts and understandings and insights can come from, again, developing a relationship with that inner child and try to figure out what did they need and how can I facilitate this? Who in my life could help me facilitate this? You don't need one or two people to be your base. You can have one or two people that are your main connection, but then you develop and create other connections that can facilitate what you need that maybe that person or those few people lack. So if you have a tendency towards unavailable people, you might start to create a friendship or two with people who are available. They will feel uncomfortable at first, but if you keep working, you'll start to develop more of a mastery of receiving that connection. And then if you can really develop that, you might be able to stay in the connection that you have because you have other people who are supporting you. So this is a place to start, and I encourage you to look more into inner child work if any of this resonates with you.